Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 18.3 Beta 1 and iOS 18.3 Public Beta 1 have been out for a couple weeks, along with iOS 18.2's public release. But there's even more to talk about since the iOS 18.3 Beta 1 is out What's New video. We'll talk about some features, Apple news, and also the overall experience since I've been using it full-time on my 16 Pro Max and iPad Pro. We'll also talk about your experience based off the YouTube community poll where there's over 14,000 votes and 181 comments. I've gone over all the comments to see what it's like for all of us, so be sure to stick around toward the end of the video where we'll go over some of those. Now, Apple announced a new promotion this week for Japanese New Year. If we go to Safari, you can see it here. I actually have it translated into English so I can read it, but basically, it's going to give you a limited edition AirTag if you purchase an iPhone, and you may get a gift card with this as well. So you can see the AirTag here, and that's a promotion starting very soon. You can read more about it, and I'll link it in the description below. Apple's also been teasing an unknown announcement for January 4th and 5th on Apple TV Plus and on X and other places. You'll see they have a save the date where it says see for yourself on January 4th through 5th. So we don't know exactly what this is about, but they're teasing it here as well. Now, if you're someone that uses different apps on your phone, such as Telegram and others, I have a Telegram channel and Discord channel as well. Telegram was draining a ton of battery, but it looks like they've fixed it with the latest update. So make sure to go into your app store and make sure that you have that updated if you're using that app. With the latest update, you can see it says bug fixes, minor improvements, and more, but it does seem to have fixed the overall battery issues many were having. Also, ChatGPT had an issue this past week. It worked on Siri. If you have Apple Intelligence, you could use it just fine, but if you use the ChatGPT app itself, it just wouldn't work properly in some regions. So you could ask a question and it just wouldn't work. It wouldn't return any answers. So that should be fixed by now, but it was an issue many people were having. Also, Apple had a new ad this week promoting Apple Watch in a way to help you quit quitting your new fitness goals. You'll see on Apple's YouTube channel where it says Apple Watch Quit Quitting. So it's a new ad promoting Apple Watch to help you stay in your fitness routine or reach some of those goals. So I'll link it in the description for you to check out as well. Now, Apple is hard at work on next year's iPhone 17 Air or 17 Slim and iPhone 17 Pro. Apparently, though, in the next couple of years, Apple is aiming to release a completely bezel-free iPhone, possibly all glass. We've heard about this for years, and this is something a bit unexpected, but sort of sounds great, but then offers little screen protection. So we'll cover that in more detail in the weekly Apple News Update video, but it is something that I think is a little bit different and unexpected. Now, as far as features this week, while iOS 18.3 Beta 1 did not give us a ton of features. In fact, if we go into settings, go to accessibility, it did fix a couple things. So if we scroll down here, they updated the dark icon for camera control, but not really a whole lot of other things. We also got some different prompts, so maybe if we go into the App Store and you go to search for the first time, so if we go in and cancel that, some people were seeing where you could use natural language here, just like you can on the TV app, as well as Apple Music. But there wasn't anything groundbreaking. However, it looks with Beta 2 that there could be some major updates here. iOS 18.3 Beta 1 Apple Intelligence models actually received some updates before Christmas, according to Shrimp Apple Pro. We'll probably see a few updates in the next beta, such as skin tone for Genmoji, notification summary updates, and the model that is responsible for the sketch features are now working properly. That could be for the new feature on the iPad, where you have your writing tool where you can circle something, and it's the image wand. So hopefully those things are working properly, and definitely in Beta 2 we should see some updates here. As far as what's up next for Apple Intelligence, we should see some changes there as well. If we go to our focus modes, we did get something new here, but some of the features seem like they're not working just yet. So we have the new reduce interruptions one, but we don't have the priority notifications yet. So that's something we could see with the next beta. We're also waiting for an updated Siri 2.0 and more languages and countries to support Apple Intelligence as well. It looks like we'll probably have quite a few more countries between now and April of 2025, so those are things I would look forward to, but we don't have them just yet. Now, Apple is on a break right now, and they updated the Feedback app with this notice. If you have the Feedback app and you're on a beta, or if you don't, there was a notice in it, but I'll go ahead and show you now. And you'll see they published this in the Feedback app on Christmas Eve, 12/24, and it says Apple Beta Software Program Winter Break for News. It says, please note that our team will not be processing feedback during our winter break, December 24th through January 1st. That sort of gives us a hint as to when to expect the next update, which is something we'll talk about in just a moment. First, though, I wanted to share a weekly iOS tip, as I've been sharing the past couple of weeks. Many people have complained with the latest versions of the updates that when they set a wallpaper, it sort of gets too vibrant on the home screen. It used to be the reverse, where it would desaturate on the lock screen. However, it seems you can fix this a little bit more easily. Someone sent in a tip, and this seems to work. So if we go into our wallpaper, when you go to customize, if you go into customize and set your first wallpaper for the lock screen, you'll have this here. Then instead of just hitting done, you can go back into customize, or while you're setting it, you can select a photo, select that wallpaper again, set it, and then it should stay the same vibrancy. This seems to be something that fixes that issue if you're having it. So if we go back in, you'll see as I scroll home, it does seem to change as I didn't set it separately, but it is something that can change on more vibrant wallpapers. So that should fix that overall issue. When it comes to weekly releases, well, this is tremendous news, and it looks like iOS 18.2.1 is confirmed and coming very soon. Apple is working on this. I sort of predicted this some time ago, and it looks like it's holding true. Mac Rumors actually found that they have this in their analytics on their website, and usually when we see that, we typically see a release very soon. Based on what we see with the winter break, we could have it as soon as January 2nd or 3rd. We have seen early releases like that before, previous years, so we could see that, or they may wait until the following week. So we could see it the week of CES on the 6th. We don't really know 100%, but it's great that they're actually working on this, and we know for a fact that they are, as we're seeing in analytics. It's going to be a little ways out for iOS 18.3 Beta 2. We could see it the same week here, the first week of January, or they could wait for the betas until the week of the 5th or 6th. So we could see that with maybe bi-weekly releases after that, or they may wait until the week of the 13th. We don't know 100%, but that seems to be what they've done in the past. So we'll know more once they release iOS 18.2.1, and that will fix a lot of those issues, hopefully, and add security updates as well. Also, I've mentioned before that Apple's working on iOS 19 already, and that could be causing a slowdown for all the updates for iOS 18. If they're really focused on working on that, early leaks, though, suggest it will support all the same iPhones as iOS 18 does, from the iPhone SE 3 to the iPhone 16 Pro Max here. So that's great news, but maybe hints at more of a stability update finally, where we'll have better features that are more stable and maybe just not as many. I would love to see that, and I think many of you would like to see that as well. Get rid of all the bugs, bring back the stability of iOS, and then just give us a few features that are very useful. Also, we'll see iOS 19 usually for the first time in early June. Probably the week of the 8th. They don't usually go on the 1st, so we could see it on the 2nd, but probably the 9th. We don't know 100%, but we could have WWDC 2025 on the 9th. Then we'll see what they're actually doing with iOS 19. When it comes to the overall experience, well, many people have been staying on iOS 17.7.2. If that's on an older device, many people are happy staying on that. It has the latest security updates, and Apple still has not released an iOS 17.7.3 yet for iPhone. Maybe we'll get that soon. However, I would love to see them release IPSW files, allowing more people to downgrade if they want to. For whatever reason, they decided not to do this with the latest version, so it's very hard to downgrade if you want to. It looks like you can't do it at this point, so that's something I wish Apple would provide as long as they have the latest security updates. When it comes to iOS 18.2, well, generally it's pretty good, but I see more and more complaints every day with different issues. Some people say the touch bugs seem to be gone, and the stickers are showing properly in messages. However, there's new bugs I'm hearing about, such as Wi-Fi disconnecting when you've locked the phone. I noticed this before when I was on iOS 18.2 on my main phone. Sometimes I would lock the phone, unlock it, and then Wi-Fi would disconnect. I'm not sure why, but it didn't happen on any other devices. Other things that people are seeing is on some of the older devices, things such as keyboard lag or just horrible crashes and restarts, but many people say it's great as well. The other concerning thing is mail delays for some, but there are some bugs we're seeing more and more as time goes on, but other people are saying it's working better for them as well. It just depends on the overall user. When it comes to iOS 18.3 Beta 1, well, this seems to be pretty great for a first beta. It definitely seems better, but there's still some issues to talk about. It's generally very fast with an occasional stutter, very, very smooth. ProMotion is nice and smooth. We'll talk about performance in a moment, but the overall experience generally is pretty good. However, there are a few issues. For example, some people say that apps are a little bit slower to open, and there's an odd issue with widgets. So for example, here's the stock weather widget. If we go into it, slide home, I can't reopen it until the animation is complete. So you'll see if I tap it right away, it does nothing, but if I go back in, it's fine. So we can do that, go into another one, but again, if you tap on a widget, close it, try to tap on it right away, it doesn't work. It doesn't really affect too many users, as you're probably going to go into something else, but it is something different than we've seen before. The other thing you may have already seen is some notifications show in light mode and dark mode even while you have dark mode icons set. So that's an odd bug. Not anything too major, but something that's noticeable. And there's some Bluetooth issues for some in CarPlay, such as BMWs and other cars. I've seen it myself. I've also seen slow scrolling, sometimes in messages. A restart fixed that for me. But since that happened, I haven't had to restart again to fix it. But the scrolling was super slow at one point, restarted the device, and it fixed the problem completely. I haven't seen it since. When it comes to the overall battery life, well, it's been pretty good on this particular version. Let's go ahead and take a look though. Now, before we look at the beta for battery life, let's take a look at iOS 18.2. Thanks to Connor for sending this in, and this is on an iPhone 15 Pro Max with 87% battery health. So you'll see he had 11 hours and 19 minutes of screen active time, 3 hours and 51 minutes of screen idle time, but used about 140% of his battery, meaning he charged it and had to use that in order to get through the day. So today, though, it seemed to improve. Using 50% of the battery, he had 4 hours of screen active time, 1 hour and 13 minutes of screen idle time. So 8 hours total if he used it the same throughout the day, and that's pretty good with 87% battery health. As far as iOS 18.3 Beta 1, well, let's go ahead and take a look at that. I've been using it full time. If we go to battery health, I have 86 cycles with 100% capacity, and you can see more details here with Coconut Battery. As far as battery life, it's been okay, definitely better than some of the earlier ones, but 4 hours and 57 minutes of screen active time, 1 hour and 48 minutes of screen idle time, and I used about 75% of my battery, or I'm down to 39%. So it's doing okay, not phenomenal, but yesterday, 3 hours and 11 minutes, 2 hours and 37 minutes of screen idle time, and used about 60% again. So it's getting me through the day. I'm not using it super heavily as I have other devices I'm using, but it is better than what I've seen before, where with the same sort of usage throughout the day, I only had 4 hours and 3 minutes on this version. So definitely it's improving for me, and hopefully updating some of those apps helped as well. When it comes to battery intelligence, we have no sign of that still. So what that means is basically you can plug in your phone and it will give more information. So if we use this here, MagSafe, and plug it in. Let's see if it's plugged in here. There we go. And it enables it, and it should tell us in the future versions at least when it will complete charging. Hopefully we'll see that in the future with battery intelligence, and that could be part of the future iOS updates as well, but we haven't seen anything about that. When it comes to the overall performance, it's been pretty good overall. iPhone 11 seems to be performing just fine, and if we go to the app library and scroll, ProMotion ramps up and down nicely. It will go up and down as needed, but it's nice and smooth and very good other than the few issues I mentioned before with messages for me. Again, that's since been resolved since a reboot. If we go into music, you'll see it loads pretty quickly. You just have to depend on the internet connection. And if we go into maybe the camera, we'll load that quickly. It seems to open nice and fast, no issues there. Again, if we go back in, snap a photo. There was a slight stutter there when I closed it, but overall it's generally pretty smooth. Again, a reboot fixes any issues we're having with that. As far as the overall heat, well, they seem to stay nice and cool for me, especially after the first week or so. On the 16 Pro Max, it feels nice and cool to the touch, so let's take a closer look with the thermal camera. On the 16 Pro Max with iOS 18.3 Beta 1, we're at about 31.5 to 32 degrees Celsius, and on the 16 Pro Max with iOS 18.2, we're at about 28.6 degrees Celsius. So it is going up and down a little bit, and in general, though, it feels nice and cool to the touch, so no concerns there. Maybe if you're in a hot environment, I'm in about an ambient temperature of 72 degrees Fahrenheit, so It stays nice and cool for me, but in general, they're not overheating at all or getting too hot. When it comes to the storage, we'll take a look at that and then the benchmarks. But if we go into storage, let's go to General and then iPhone Storage. We'll scroll to the bottom once it loads here. And if we scroll down, now that it's loaded, we have 18.26 gigabytes for iOS, completely normal at this point, with Apple Intelligence taking up over 3 gigabytes at 3.18 gigabyte. And you'll see system data. This will go up and down. It was just at 12 or 13 gigabytes. Now it's down to 9.93. But as long as it's not using all of your storage, so you can still install apps, it shouldn't be an issue. When it comes to benchmarks, let's take a look at that. When it comes to benchmarks, on the left, we have the M4 iPad Pro 13-inch with 16 gigs of RAM. Then we have the iPhone 16 Pro Max on iOS 18.2. These were the best scores from before. Then the iPhone 11 with iOS 18.3 Beta 1, and the iPhone 16 Pro Max with iOS 18.3 Beta 1. They're pretty tremendous scores overall. It's not the highest I've scored, but 3,518 for single core, 8,720 for multi-core on the 16 Pro Max. I ran it a couple times today and the highest was 8,837. So it's doing quite well. It's well within the margin of error and definitely seems like it's improving over time where Apple's found some performance that maybe we weren't using before. Now, as far as the overall experience, let's take a look at some of your comments and see what you had to say. Isaac Cope 8580 said, I'm running iOS 17.7.2 on my iPhone 12. Haven't noticed any issues or bugs. I'm probably going to stay on iOS 17 if Apple releases more iOS 17 updates, but I still won't be updating to iOS 18 at all, period. So I'm sticking with iOS 17 for the time being. Ethan Cantu 24 says, I've been using iOS 18.2 on my iPhone 14 for the past 2 weeks. And the battery and performance have been excellent. Overall, the software has been very stable and not buggy. However, I have encountered one issue where the device randomly resprings while watching videos on YouTube. Hopefully this bug will be addressed in iOS 18.2.1, expected in January. Tommy Panagel says, 18.2 has been rock solid on my iPhone 16 Pro Max. We'll consider jumping back on the developer betas after the holiday season. Really looking forward to personal context in 18.4. Just JWoww says, the worst iOS update I will say, and I never complain, 18.2 on 16 Pro Max. DJVR said, on 18.3 and my 13 Pro Max has now slowed down a lot on simple tasks, like swiping on the home screen and opening an app takes a second or two longer than before. iZervis said, Hi Aaron, I'm on iOS 18.3 Beta 1 on my iPhone 15 Pro Max. I think iOS 18.2 has been pretty buggy for me with not good battery life, such as this first beta. iOS 18.3 Beta 1 is much more stable for me till now with excellent battery life and performance. I had no issues or glitches, and I think that after all these new features, we all needed a version focusing on stability. As far as new features I'm looking forward to, I really want the context version of Siri with Siri 2.0. I think we should see that hopefully very soon. And some reason my AirPods keep connecting. But overall, I think it's been pretty decent. And speaking of AirPods connectivity, it's been pretty good overall. When it comes to using the AirPods Pro regularly, I haven't had them disconnect. I've had them switch quickly between the Mac and the iPhone and the iPad, and generally it's been pretty good. The only issue I've seen with overall connectivity issues is typically with Wi-Fi, and sometimes I have to turn off Wi-Fi, turn it back on, where I don't have to do that on other devices, such as Android devices. They connect no problem, and there's something going on with that here. But I think once Apple releases their own Wi-Fi modems, as they're said to do in 2025, we'll see a big improvement there, or at least I hope we do. So that's everything so far with iOS 18.3 Beta 1 and iOS 18.2. If you've found any additional features, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. And also, what are you looking most forward to when it comes to iOS updates this year, iOS 19, or maybe new phones with the iPhone SE 4th generation or something along those lines? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do, and if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.